Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're diving into something you guys specifically asked about. Former President Trump's speech at, well, that Al Smith dinner, right?
Right.
It's usually all laughs, supposed to be, for a good cause, too, those Catholic charities. But this year,
Yeah.
boo boy. This piece from Source Name, they published it right after. And let me tell you, some of these quotes, whoa. We're going to unpack all that, what was said, how it went down, and what it might mean going forward, so buckle up.
Yeah, I mean, this dinner, it's always been interesting, right? Because it's usually this, like you said, moment of civility.
Yeah.
Even with elections going on, super intense, still everyone comes together.
Kind of that last gasp of, hey, we can all be in a room together kind of thing before it all goes.
Exactly. And that's what makes this year stand out so much. It's like Trump just threw the whole playbook out the window.
Yeah, this article, they don't hold back. They're talking profanity, personal attacks, even this weird, self-pity vibe.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? This wasn't just some, comedy club. This was a big deal event. You had Cardinal Dolan there, major figure.
Wow, yeah, with the Catholic Church. That's
Exactly. So for Trump to go there with those words in that room, that's what makes it so noteworthy.
They get into the specifics, too, about how he went after Biden and Harris, and not just their policies, but, personally?
Right, and that's where you start thinking about strategy, right? Because it wasn't just, oh, we disagree. It was very much ad hominem attacks, going after them, not their ideas.
So what was the goal, then? Just to get a rise out of people? Play to his base, maybe?
Could be. Or signaling something. It's all, part of the game.
It's interesting, though, you mentioned Harris, because she wasn't even there, right? She had that scheduling conflict, but the article, they point out how much he still went after her.
Interesting, right? Like, he was expecting her to be there to spar back. But without her there, it became this, one-sided thing.
Yeah, it's one thing to have that back and forth that the dinner usually allows for, but this was, like you said, just dot-pointed, like that quote they pulled. We have someone in the White House who can barely talk, barely put together two coherent sentences, who seems to have mental faculties of a child, is a person that has no intelligence whatsoever, but enough about Kamala Harris. I mean, come on, that's
beyond your typical political jab, right? So it's going right for someone's, mental state almost, and doing it under the cover of a joke.
Yeah, and then you got stuff about Schumer and Walz, and it wasn't just teasing, It felt, deliberately inflammatory, especially given, like we said, who else was in the room.
Exactly, and that's what makes you think bigger.
Right.
Right, about the climate we're in. Was this a gamble, trying to fire up his base, even if it alienates some moderates? Or was it something else entirely? Because it feels like this whole dinner, it's like this tiny little, microcosm for all the division in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, like even the rules of the game, they're, constantly being rewritten or something.
Right, you said it.
It's why, and that photo they included of Schumer and Trump talking at the end, after all that, they're buddies.
It's jarring, right? Like this perfect image of the weirdness.
Yeah.
This political battle, but then the need to at least pretend everything's normal. And you got to wonder, right?
Yeah.
How did people there even react? They mentioned Cardinal Dolan was right there during all this, even laughed along at one point.
That's what gets me. I mean, you have Cardinal Dolan. He's all about, compassion, unity, that whole deal. And then the speech happens. It's a lot to process.
It is. It really shows you how religion and politics, they get all tangled up, especially here in the U.S.
It's a time.
So you've got Dolan representing these values, but he's got to stay neutral in that setting. It's got to be tough.
Makes you think, was Trump testing the waters? Seeing how far he could push, even with someone like Dolan right there?
That's sharp, because it plays into this whole, Trump is disruptor thing. He likes to shake things up, even if it makes people squirm.
And speaking of squirming, remember that self-pity thing we talked about? The article, it's got all these quotes where he's like, no president ever has been treated worse than me. Even brought up Lincoln and Jackson. Can you believe that?
Classic whataboutism, right? Deflecting by pointing the finger somewhere else. And it's usually not even accurate, historically speaking.
Yeah, it's like, Doc, come on. Lincoln had an assassination attempt. Jackson lived through a civil war.
Exactly. To compare that with the criticism Trump's gotten, it's a bit much.
Feels like he's trying to flip the script, make himself the victim, even while he's going after everyone else.
Exactly. He's playing the underdog card big time, and it works. For a certain group, it really resonates.
The article mentions that this dinner was really soon after the assassination attempts on Trump.
Right. And that matters, because instead of using those moments to, bring people together, he makes it about him being persecuted.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, When does asking for understanding become, I don't know, an excuse?
It's a fine line for sure. So, big picture time. After this speech, this, I don't know, performance, what does it tell us about where politics are headed?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Some would say, that's just Trump being Trump. All's got to poke the bear.
But is it just him anymore? Have we gotten so used to this stuff that it doesn't even faze us?
And that's scary, right? When being outraged is normal, it loses its power. We start to accept things that before would have been unthinkable.
So, zooming out even further, what does this dinner tell us about the election?
That's what we all want to know, right? Does it energize his base, or does it push away those moderate voters?
Feels like a huge gamble.
It is, but it's a gamble we've seen him take before, and, well, let's just say it's worked out for him sometimes. His whole thing is, any press is good press, you know? Even bad attention keeps him in the game.
It's like, is he in on the joke, Or does all this chaos, even if people hate it, does it still help him somehow?
That's the question.
Right.
And it goes beyond just him, honestly. It's like, in politics now, everything's gotten so, I don't know, fractured. What one group thinks is awful, another group, it's like their badge of honor.
Yeah, it's like we're living in two different worlds almost, like basic stuff, decency, respecting others. It all means something different depending on who you ask.
And that makes it really hard to, to move forward. If we can't even agree on the ground rules on what's okay, what's not okay to say.
It's a lot. But that's why we're talking about it, right? Got to keep analyzing this stuff, trying to make sense of it.
I agree. And even this dinner, the fact that everyone's talking about it, that we're here picking it apart, it means something.
So where does that leave us? We covered this wild event, the reactions, what it all might mean. But maybe more questions than answers, huh?
Maybe. But like we said, asking the questions, that's the important part. Don't just take things at face value, especially in politics. Think about why someone's saying something, what they want to happen, the whole context,
Do your own deep dive, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Look deeper, get different perspectives, and most importantly, don't check out. What we do, how we react, it all matters.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into, well, that Al Smith dinner speech. Hope you found it insightful, even if it was a bit unsettling at times. Until next time, thanks for joining us here on The Deep Dive.